You're sitting alone in the sterile, air-conditioned chill of your corner office. It is 3 in the morning. The city of New York stretches out below you, a sprawling grid of amber streetlights and endless ambition. But you are not looking at the skyline. Your eyes are fixed on the soft, harsh glare of a dual-monitor setup, tracking columns of numbers that blur into meaningless gray lines if you stare too long. Beneath your mahogany desk, out of sight but radiating a heavy gravitational pull, sits a black canvas duffel bag. You haven't opened it yet, but you know exactly what is inside. It smells like damp canvas, cheap cologne, and the faint, unmistakable metallic tang of old blood. It is $2 million in used unmarked bills. You are not a gangster. You don't carry a gun. You don't break legs. And you have never threatened a soul in your life. You are an accountant, a financial consultant, if anyone asks. But the men who drop that bag off do not care about your impressive degrees or your corner office. To the Cosa Nostra, you are the most valuable and the most expendable asset they possess. You are the washing machine. Let's talk about how the machinery of the underworld actually works. It didn't start with duffel bags and burner phones. It started with a favor. A slightly altered ledger for a sanitation company. A blind eye turned to anomalous cash flows for a chain of family-owned pizzerias. You were young, drowning in law school and CPA exam debt, and the thick envelopes of cash they handed you felt like a lifeline. You thought you were outsmarting the system. You thought you were in control. Wow, that is the greatest lie the criminal world tells you, the illusion of control. Before long, you were introduced to men who spoke softly, wore tailored suits, and had eyes as dead and cold as winter asphalt. They didn't ask for your services, they assumed them. Now, you are the maestro of a symphony of deceit. You understand the holy trinity of your trade. Placement, layering, and integration. Placement is the dirtiest and most dangerous phase. That is the duffel bag currently staining the carpet at your feet. How do you make $2 million of extortion and heroin money invisible to the IRS? You don't just deposit it. You bleed it into the financial system drop by drop. You use an army of smurfs, dozens of low-level nobodies who make deposits of $9,900 into hundreds of different bank accounts, carefully staying just under the $10,000 federal reporting threshold. You funnel cash through businesses that deal almost exclusively in paper money. Strip clubs, laundromats, automated car washes, vending machine empires. You create ghost employees on legitimate payrolls, paying generous salaries to dead men whose ATM cards sit in your safe. Then comes layering. This is where your dark genius shines. This is where you feel like a god of the digital age. You move the money through a labyrinth of shell companies so complex it would give a forensic auditor an aneurysm just looking at the flowchart. A limited liability company in Delaware buys consulting services from a holding company in Cyprus, which is a subsidiary of a blind trust in the Cayman Islands. You wire funds across international borders in fractions of a second. You buy and sell cryptocurrency, tumbling it through digital mixers until the blockchain itself loses the scent. You create fake invoices for non-existent goods, shipping containers of premium Italian olive oil that are actually filled with tap water. Billed at exorbitant rates to legitimize the massive cash transfers. Every keystroke obscures the origin. Every wire transfer washes away a little more of the blood. Finally, integration. The money comes home. It returns to the men with the dead eyes, but now it wears a tuxedo. It is entirely clean. It is legitimate taxable income. They use it to buy luxury penthouses in Manhattan, commercial real estate in Chicago, fleets of exotic sports cars, and blue-chip art at exclusive auctions. You hand them tax returns that show them as brilliant, successful entrepreneurs. They pat you on the back. They pour you expensive scotch. They call you my friend. They invite you to their daughters' weddings. But here's the trap. Here's the exact moment the cold reality seeps into your bones and freezes your marrow. You are at one of those lavish weddings, holding a crystal glass of champagne, looking at the laughing, dancing crowd. You see the capo joking with a city councilman, and you realize with a sudden, suffocating panic that you are not one of them. You will never be one of them. You are a civilian who knows too much. You hold the map to every buried body, financially speaking. You are the single point of failure. The paranoia starts as a whisper in the back of your mind and rapidly grows into a deafening roar. You stop sleeping. Every time the elevator chimes on your floor, your heart slams against your ribs. Is it the FBI? Just arriving with a battering ram, windbreakers, and a federal racketeering indictment? Or is it a pair of silent men with a garrote wire sent to tie up a loose end? You check the rearview mirror of your imported Mercedes 10 times a minute. That dark SUV that turned when you turned, are they feds building a RICO case, or are they family soldiers making sure you don't make a run for the airport? You can't talk to your wife. You can't talk to a therapist. You are entirely, profoundly isolated in a prison made of secrets, offshore accounts, and spreadsheets. The worst part is the math. You know the numbers better than anyone alive, and the numbers tell a brutal truth. The system demands absolute perfection. If you make a mathematical error, if a bank compliance officer flags a suspicious transaction and freezes an account holding $1 million of cartel money, the Bureau will just put you in a cage. The family will do far worse. You are walking a razor-thin tightrope over a volcano, balancing ledgers that represent human misery, extortion, and violence. You try to wash your hands, but in your mind, the water in the sink always runs red. You look at the clean, crisp bills you dispense back to them, and you know exactly how many overdoses, how many ruined lives, how many shattered kneecaps paid for that paper. There is no retirement plan in your line of work. There is no 2-week notice to HR. You cannot resign from the Cosa Nostra. The money never stops flowing, and the machine always needs washing. You are trapped in a cycle of endless anxiety, managing an empire of dirt, waiting for the inevitable day when the music stops. Either the feds finally unravel your masterpiece of offshore accounts, dragging you into the blinding light of a courtroom where you will trade your life for a reduced sentence in a supermax facility, or the bosses decide that your knowledge is a liability that outweighs your usefulness. On that day, you won't get a severance package. You will get a quiet ride to the Pine Barrens or a one-way trip to the bottom of the East River, chained to the very same cinder blocks you helped them finance through a dummy construction corporation. You stare back at the glowing monitors. You rub your exhausted, bloodshot eyes. You reach down, grasp the heavy canvas handles of the duffel bag, and lift it onto your mahogany desk. You slowly unzip it. The harsh smell of the street hits your sterile office air, a stark reminder of where this wealth comes from. You pull out the first stack of crumpled $20 bills, stained with God knows what, and you begin to count, because that is all you can do. You are a ghost, haunting your own life, endlessly scrubbing the sins of monsters until the day they decide to erase you completely. That is all for today. The story you just heard is fiction, but the reality of accountants who launder money for the mafia happens every day. If this story made you think, leave a comment saying what your biggest takeaway was. Subscribe so you don't miss the next stories from the Underworld. Until next time.